Welcome to channel AACA, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about Migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Now today's video is all about architect. Now obviously we come across a lot of architect. It's not a very easy profession to become or accomplish its qualification. Now we do have a lot of people interested to become an architect in Australia and also offshore. So how does an architect migrate to Australia? Now today's video will be focusing on that one in actually 3 parts, but first part is if you study in Australia, and the second part is if you have studied overseas, or perhaps you have vast majority of work experiences as an architect offshore. So what we gotta examine is basically we go into the skill assessing authority, which has the name of AACA. That's actually gonna qualify you whether or not you have meet the standard of Australians architect and allowing you to become and migrate into Australia. Now let's go in there and have a look. So whether or not you're gonna be interested to become an architect, or if you're already an architect, this video is right for you. Okay, now AACA, as I had mentioned, now this page you may be able to Google AACA space migration assessment, and you'll be able to find yourself in this page. So obviously AACA is the authority assessing all the academic qualification awarded in Australia and overseas for a purpose for migration under Australian government's skill migration program, just for architect. They don't do anything else but architect. So it's not unlike trade recognition Australia or vet assess or engineer Australia, Australian Computer Society, which they assess a lot of numbers of different professions. Now AACA only focuses in architect. So the ends code will be 232111. There are several ways, as you can see. There are 3, which first one is the accredited qualification. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna take you to the page where it shows you a list of qualification, university and its courses, how you actually can become an Australian architect. So you got to study at the right university and at the right course. And I don't think anyone will actually get that wrong, because it's a very unique space. Generally all the universities offers architecture's programs. You'll be able to get it, but it's only the main thing here is that you're required to achieve at the master level. So if you only accomplish bachelor, well, probably you can only just be a draftsperson, not an architect. So you need to study all the way through to master, and you'll be able to get there. So we will examine the list of accredited architectural qualifications in Australia, and the second part is we're gonna go through the guideline, how the overseas qualification will actually be assessed. Now the last part will be other international qualifications. So applicant with other qualification from New Zealand, Hong Kong, Singapore are required to go through all this part there. Anyway, we'll go through all that together with you. Now the first of all, obviously, is the easy one is if you are interested to study architecture courses in Australia, how do you migrate? Now generally speaking, I have not seen any architect graduated in Australia and cannot migrate. That would be a shame, because you spend so much time studying, achieved, and become an architect, and you cannot migrate. It's a very tough qualification to actually gain, an award to be gaining. So I haven't really seen anyone got the qualification and cannot migrate. Well, some of them probably left Australia just for a better career, perhaps being hired and employed in an international architecture firm. But anyway, most of them will be able to migrate. So let's have a look. Okay, so this list, as you can see here, it's the list of qualifications. Let me move that in a little bit in the middle so you can see that there. So now it goes from not really alphabet. Are they going from alphabet? No, probably not. Anyway, let's go through the first one. So ACT in Canberra. Now it's interesting that Australian National University is not actually offering architectural courses, but if you wanted to take University of Canberra, make sure you get into MArch. What does that mean? That means Master of Architecture. So the previous accredited course will be a Bachelor of Architecture. So the only preferences that you can, options should I say, that you can have in Canberra will be University of Canberra. Now, New South Wales does have a variety of new university offering a way to become architect. So Uni of Sydney, Uni of New South Wales, UTS, and University of Newcastle, Western Sydney University. So that will be the 5 universities. So for example, if you go to University of Wollongong, nope, you don't get that there. So and you can see that it's all required to go up to master courses. Now Queensland, there are 4, so it's actually quite good because not too sure with all the other states, but Queensland is actually quite good because the offer is at Bond University, which is also in regional area. You get a bonus points there. University of Queensland, QUT, Queensland University of Technology, and Griffiths. Griffiths also has campus in Gold Coast, which it will be located as a regional Australia. South Australia, University of Adelaide and University of South Australia. Tasmania, University of Tasmania. Victoria does come with variety, so RMIT, okay, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Deakin, University of Melbourne, Monash, and Swinburne. And Western Australia's University of Western Australia, Curtin, and University of Dornham. So as you can see, most of the university that in Australia does offer architectural qualification and courses or programs, should I say, and make sure you actually need to get into master degree. So no one could actually accomplish bachelor and become an architect. So that's the standard there. There are some other awards that Australia also recognizes. So there will be some university in New Zealand, University of Auckland, Victorian University of Wellington, Unitec, and also this NZIA or ERB special examination. Some in Hong Kong and Singapore, University of Hong Kong, Chinese University of Hong Kong, Chuhai College of Higher Education Master Architecture, and in Singapore, National University of Singapore. So that will be the list of qualifications. If you have studied a master, achieve a Master of Architecture, you should be able to be deemed and seen as meeting the Australian architectural standard to become an architect. Now obviously there's other elements coming in for migration purpose. You might want to check out my previous video in regards to the point test system for independent skill migration. So again, once you achieve that, that should not be any problem. Now coming into the next part is, if you're overseas, if you study any other university other than those ones we have just talked about, what do? There's also a way to come in as overseas qualification as well. It's just a little bit more complicated because those courses that you have achieved and accomplished, it is not straight accredited by AACA. So what do you do here? Okay, so if we go back to the AACA webpage, it does have a pathway for overseas qualification assessments. Now, it provides very generic information here. It doesn't say much. The time required to go through probably is about 15 weeks. So that's about 3.5 months. It's lengthy because they need to check every subject that you actually study. Let's go into the guideline and have a look. Okay, so once you get in here, you'll be able to find this documents, which I'm gonna go through right now, and it's the most updated one. As you can see, it's just came out on March 2022, where they call it stage 1 and 2. Anyway, they should just call it overseas qualification assessments. There are 2 stages, because first stage is going through your qualifications. Now, that's pretty obvious. So the eligibility that I'm going to go through is that you must have completed a 5 years full-time equivalent architectural qualification. So if you're studying overseas, wherever you were, you only did 4.5 years or did 3 years, sorry, probably won't meet this requirement. Applicant must have another evidence of a minimum of 1 year relevant professional experience. 6 months must be post-graduation. Now, those timing is actually embedded during your study as well, and English proficiency as well. I believe that will require to be at the level of IELTS 7. So there are 2 processes. So stage 1, that's the qualification, and stage 2 is the competent base. That's basically assessing your work experiences or projects, should I say, that you have been involved previously. So qualification wise, they basically looking to match whether you have accomplished those required subjects that a generic accredited courses in Australia would have done. So look, the qualification must be complete through coursework degree, minimum duration of 10 semesters, 5 years full-time equivalent courses, and they basically go through every single detail, which I'm not gonna go through today because that's gonna take a very long time and very boring for this video. So basically looking at every single items, subjects, and detail of studies. Now, the other thing is the performance criteria, which require to meet the 2021 National Standard Competition of Architects, and they are 13 topics of area outline, blah blah blah. Those details are more for technicality or for an architect to actually know about. There's an explanatory note on that one there. So basically requires to cover what we have just said: 5 years of study and some work experience, so at least 1 year in bachelor and 6 months in post-grad. That's the requirement there. Oh, here we go. The English is actually not 7, but overall requires 6.5. Now, obviously, 6.5, you're 0.5 short of getting 7. Generally, I just get people to get 7 because you get additional 10 points for your point test system in order to get your skill migration program there. So why not get there? Now, obviously, that's for the overseas qualification. Now, what if you have a vast majority of work experiences? Perhaps you were used to be only graduate as a bachelor, but you have probably 10, 15, 20 years of work experience as architect. Your knowledge and skill was gained through work experiences. Now, you can also be qualified there. Now, let's have a look at that one there. So this is actually for experienced practitioner overseas. Okay, that's the third pathway that required to go through. How they're gonna do it is obviously they go through complex project. Typically, project of medium scale, large requires skill knowledge. So they test you based on complex. Well, obviously, designing a building is a very complex job. Whether or not you can actually be competent meeting that requirement, that is the test that they're gonna apply. That is the assessment that they're gonna apply. So again, they have this guideline as well. When you click in, where do you click? Okay, down here, right here, you click on a guide to applicant, and you will get to this document here. So this is for experienced practitioner assessments. So mostly for overseas, because if you have experienced practitioner in Australia, that would be a little bit weird because you should already get your visa, and then obviously you don't need to get migration assessed anyway. So this program provides an alternate fast track pathway. Basically, you gotta be very experienced in the field as an architect professions. So what do they do? Let's skip through the intro, but eligibility here is what people normally want to see. So minimum 5 years or equivalent professional qualification in architecture, 7 years relevant professional post-grad experience. So that's 7 years after you got your master degrees and you have been working as an architect for 7 years with a minimum 3 year providing architectural services on a complex project, practicing in at executive level principal decision maker. Okay, so this is the differences there. 12-month relevant professional experience in Australia within last 3 years. So this, I think it's either minimum 5 years of this or 7 years of that one with 3 years as a senior executive, or 12-month work experience in Australia. Well, why would you do this one? I don't get this one, because if you're already working in Australia, obviously you will have some sort of visa, right? Not too sure why would I have that they're residing in Australia. Oh, if you're already residing in Australia, why? Anyway, here we go. The little bit of detail of definition. So, minimum 5 years. Basically, you hold the whatever the registration that you have in overseas. Obviously, you don't become an architect without a registration in any countries nowadays in this modern world. Or 7 years or your professional post-grad experiences, so this is all. You either meet this one, or perhaps some of them all together. So that's basically how they qualify you. Again, English requirement is 6.5. If you're gonna do skill migration, might as well just get 7, because 6.5, it's only 0.5 away from getting 7. Anyway, that will get expedited with priority assessment, and you'll be able to become an architect's skill assessment. Now, bear in mind, having the skill assessment does not mean you have the registration in Australia. So in order to allow you to work, it's a little bit different. People ask why there's overlapping issue there. Some people with some accreditation in other countries, for example, people graduated from Singapore as architect, they may not have registration in Australia, but they can get skill assessed and come into Australia to apply for registration. So it's a timing issue, and this kind of things does happen for a lot of medical profession as well. Generally, industry body, they are industry body because the body was created to help and prevent any sort of risk for that industry, right? So they wanted to protect the industry by not getting flood of overseas migrants, and their work is gone. So that's why there is a time differences between getting registration and skill assessment. Anyhow, should you have more question or query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.